He shielded the enemy's daughter. Now her mother won't let him leave. No weapons, no fighting, no politics, but war never cared about rules. The alarms began as a low hum, almost polite. Then they screamed. Red lights flashed across metal walls. The station's calm voice announced evacuation in 6 languages, repeating the message over and over as explosions shook the outer rings. Human Lieutenant Evan Hale moved fast. He was not a hero. He did not think about glory or sacrifice. He was tired, injured, and counting seconds in his head the way soldiers always did. 30 seconds to reach the shuttle bay, 20 to get the civilians inside, 10 before the ring collapsed. He guided a small group of traders toward the emergency docks. Smoke filled the air. Gravity flickered, making each step feel wrong. Behind him, the war raged between humans and the Kalari Empire, a species taller than humans, armored by nature, with eyes that never blinked. The Kalari believed in efficiency, order, and victory at any cost. Humans believed in survival. A blast rocked the station. Evan was thrown against a wall, his shoulder screaming in pain. He forced himself up. "Move," he shouted. "Don't stop," the civilians ran. Then he saw her. She stood near a shattered corridor, small and alone. Her skin shimmered faintly blue under the emergency lights. Her clothes marked her as Kalari, enemy. Her eyes were wide, frozen with fear. A child. Debris rained down from above. A support beam cracked, bending under its own weight. Evan's communicator buzzed. "Lieutenant, fall back now. Ring 7 is collapsing." He looked at the girl. She looked at him. In that moment there was no empire, no orders, no war, just a child about to die. Evan ran. The beam broke free. He reached her just as the ceiling collapsed. He wrapped his arms around her and turned his body sideways, taking the full impact himself. Metal smashed into his back. Pain exploded through him, white and blinding. The world went dark. Evan woke to silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that followed disaster. He tried to move. His body refused. Pain pulsed through his chest and spine, deep and heavy. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was smooth and curved, glowing softly. Alien symbols moved across it like slow water. This was not a human medical bay. He tried to sit up. A sharp tone sounded, and invisible pressure pushed him gently back down. "Easy." The voice was calm, female, not human. He turned his head. Standing beside the bed was a Kalari medic. Her armor was light, her hands precise. She studied a floating screen filled with symbols. "You should not be alive," she said, not unkindly. Evan laughed weakly, then stopped when it hurt. "I get that a lot." She tilted her head, curious. "You took structural damage meant to kill 3 adults. Your spine was fractured, your organs crushed. Still here," he said. "Yes," she replied. "That is confusing." The memory returned in pieces. The child, the beam, the impact. "Where is the girl?" Evan asked. The medic paused. "She is unharmed." His chest loosened. He closed his eyes for a second. "Good." That single word was recorded. Elsewhere in the ship, the recording played again. The Kalari command chamber was quiet, filled with officers and advisors. At the center stood High Commander Saraxa, her armor dark and flawless, her presence heavy as gravity. She watched the footage without blinking. A human soldier breaking formation. A Kalari child frozen in fear. A collapsing ceiling. The human shielding her. No hesitation, no calculation. When the recording ended, the chamber remained silent. "An enemy combatant saved a civilian of our species," one officer said carefully. "This may be deception." Sarax's voice was low. "Replay it." They did, again and again. Finally, she raised one clawed hand. The room froze. "Where is my daughter?" she asked. "She is safe," an aide answered quickly. "Minor shock only," Saraxa nodded once. "And the human, alive, barely." Some officers shifted uncomfortably. "Protocol demands execution," one said. "He is an enemy soldier." Saraxa turned her gaze on him. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. He carried my child through falling steel, she said. Explain why I should kill him. No one spoke. After a long moment, she issued her command. He is not to be harmed. Several heads snapped up. He is not to be moved, she continued. He remains here. But Commander, leave, she said. The chamber emptied. Saraxa remained, staring at the frozen image of a human bleeding on the floor, arms wrapped around her daughter. For reasons I do not yet understand, she said softly, you matter. Evan spent days drifting in and out of sleep. Each time he woke, his pain was less. Kalari medicine worked fast. Strange lights passed over his body. Machines hummed without sound. No chains. No guards pointing weapons, just care. When he finally woke fully, someone small sat beside his bed, the girl. She held a simple object in her hands, turning it over nervously. When she saw his eyes open, she froze. You're awake, she said. Her voice was quiet, careful. Looks like it, Evan replied. She hesitated, then placed the object on his chest. It was a small metallic token, scratched and worn. This is mine, she said. I give it to you. He smiled faintly. Thank you, she studied his face. Why did you do it? Do what? Shield me. He thought for a moment. Because you needed it. That answer seemed to confuse her more than any other. Before she could ask more, the door opened. High Commander Saraxa entered the room. The air changed instantly. Evan felt it, even lying flat and broken. She was tall, powerful, and terrifying in a quiet way. Her eyes locked onto him, sharp and unreadable. The girl stood quickly and moved to her side. Leave us, Saraxa said to the medic. They were alone. You are human, Saraxa said. Last I checked, Evan replied. You are an enemy, she continued, so I've been told. You saved my daughter, he nodded slowly. Yes. Why, there it was, the question that mattered. He met her gaze unafraid. She was just a child. The words hung in the air. Saraxa stared at him, searching for something, deception, weakness, strategy. She found none. You acted without gain, she said. Yes. Without orders. Yes. Without expectation of survival. Yes. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Saraxa spoke again. You will remain here, she said. Not as punishment, as necessity. Evan frowned. I'd like to leave. She shook her head slowly. You cannot. Why? Because if you leave, she said, the galaxy will ask why I let you go. He sighed. Figures. She turned to leave, then paused. Human, she said. You have disrupted something far larger than yourself. The door closed. Evan lay back, staring at the ceiling. He had saved a child. And somehow, that had made him more dangerous than any weapon. Evan Hale learned very quickly that captivity did not always look like chains. He was given a room with smooth walls and soft light. The bed adjusted to his body. Food arrived without him asking, prepared in a way his stomach could accept. His injuries healed faster than human medicine ever allowed. Still, the door never unlocked. He was not free. Kalari guards stood outside at all times. They did not point weapons at him. They did not speak. They simply existed, solid and unmoving like statues. Evan tested his strength slowly. Each day he could sit longer, stand longer, walk farther. His body ached, but it obeyed. His mind, however, refused to rest. He was an enemy soldier inside the heart of the Kalari command fleet. That alone made no sense. What made even less sense was that he was alive and treated well. On the 5th day, the girl returned. She entered quietly, holding a small data tablet with both hands. Her steps were careful, as if the floor might break beneath her. You're standing, she said. Trying to, Evan replied. Doctor says I shouldn't rush. She nodded seriously. Rushing causes inefficiency, he smiled. You sound like your people, she frowned, thinking. I sound like my mother, that explained a lot. She sat on the edge of a nearby bench, watching him closely. Her eyes were bright, always studying, always learning. What is your name? She asked. Evan. She repeated it slowly, testing the sound. Evan. And yours? She hesitated. I am not permitted to say it to enemies. That's fair, he said. Then I'll just call you Kid. She considered this, then nodded. Acceptable. She looked at his arms, still marked with faint scars. Does it still hurt? Yeah, Evan admitted, but pain fades. She tilted her head. Fear does not. No, he said softly, but it can shrink. She looked down at her hands. When the ceiling fell, I could not move. My body refused. That happens, Evan said. Sometimes fear freezes you. Yet you moved. He shrugged. Someone had to. That answer stayed with her. Elsewhere, fear did not shrink. It grew. The Kalari High Council gathered in a chamber shaped like a hollow sphere. Officers, strategists, and political leaders filled the space, their voices sharp and controlled. At the center floated a projection of Evan's rescue. Again, an enemy saving a child. This image is spreading, one counselor said. Neutral systems have obtained it. Human networks are already sharing it, another added. They call it proof of their morality. A third spoke, voice tight. Morality is not a weapon. Saraxa stood above them all, silent. It is becoming one, the counselor replied. Execute him, someone said. End the story. Sarax's eyes narrowed. And turn him into a martyr, silence followed. The humans value symbols, she continued. Kill him and they gain one. Release him and we appear weak. Then what do you suggest? The council demanded. Saraxa looked at the image again, at the moment where Evan chose pain instead of safety. We observe, she said. And we learn, some shifted uncomfortably. From a human? Yes, she replied, especially from a human. Evan's request to leave came on the 7th day. He stood in his room as Saraxa entered, her presence filling the space. I want to go, he said plainly. She studied him. Your injuries are still healing. I can walk, I can think, that's enough. You are not a guest, she said. You are a variable. Then let me be a variable somewhere else. Her gaze sharpened. If you leave, my people will ask why. They will question my judgment. That sounds like a you problem, Evan said, then winced. No offense. She did not react. You do not understand Kalari order. Then explain it. She did. Kalari society was built on certainty. Every action served purpose. Every sacrifice was calculated. Mercy without return was seen as waste. What you did, Saraxa said, has no place in our logic. Maybe your logic needs more space, Evan replied. The room grew colder. You challenge a system older than your species, she warned. I'm not challenging it, he said. I'm just standing in it. That answer unsettled her more than anger would have. You will remain, she decided. For how long? She paused. Until I understand why my daughter now asks questions I cannot answer. The questions spread. Kalari soldiers whispered about the human. Medics discussed his recovery with curiosity instead of suspicion. Younger officers replayed the footage late into rest cycles, watching the moment again and again. Why would an enemy protect weakness? Why would a soldier disobey orders without gain? Why did it feel right? One training unit began adjusting drills, focusing on protecting non-combatants during simulations. An instructor shut it down immediately, but the idea had already taken root. The new threat arrived without warning. A deep space anomaly appeared near a shared trade corridor. Ships vanished, sensors failed, communications went dark. At first it was dismissed as a natural phenomenon. Then a Kalari cruiser was lost. Then a human colony ship went silent. Panic spread faster than data. The council convened again. Projections showed a growing void bending space in impossible ways. We do not understand it, a scientist admitted. It adapts. Adapts to what? Saraxa asked. To resistance, the scientist replied. It reacts to force. Weapons made it stronger. Shields collapsed. Traditional Kalari responses failed. The room buzzed with frustration. Saraxa turned away from the projection. Bring the human. Evan entered the chamber slowly, escorted by guards. Every eye turned toward him. This feels like a bad idea, he muttered. Saraxa ignored the comment. Look, she commanded. The anomaly filled the air, dark and shifting. What do you see? She asked. Evan studied it. He frowned. It's not attacking randomly. Explain. It's following patterns, responding to aggression, like it's scared. A ripple of disbelief passed through the room. Space is not afraid, an officer snapped. No, Evan agreed, but whatever's inside might be. The scientist leaned forward. You believe this is a living system? Or a controlled one, Evan said. Cornered animals lash out. So do people. And your solution? Saraxa asked. Stop hitting it, Evan said simply. Give it room. Silence fell. That is not a strategy, a counselor said. It is, Evan replied, just not a violent one. Saraxa considered him for a long moment. You ask us to risk everything, she said. You already are, Evan answered. You're just pretending you're not. She turned back to the council. Prepare a controlled withdrawal, minimal force. Observation only. Shock followed. You would trust a human, someone demanded. She met their gaze. He trusted us with his life. The maneuver worked. The anomaly slowed, its expansion weakened. Data flowed again. A path appeared. The room exhaled. Evan slumped slightly. See, sometimes not fighting is the bravest move. Saraxa looked at him differently now. Not as an enemy, not even as a prisoner, but as a possibility. Later, as Evan rested, the girl visited again. They listened to you, she said. Looks like it. She smiled, small but real. My mother does not listen easily. Neither do humans, Evan said. Guess we have that in common. She held up the metallic token he had returned to her earlier. I want to learn like you, she said. He blinked. Learn what? How to stand, she answered. Even when afraid, Evan smiled. That takes time. I have time, she said. Outside the room, Saraxa watched through the glass. For the first time in her life, she wondered if strength could mean more than dominance, and whether letting the human leave might break something she was not ready to lose. The anomaly did not disappear. It waited. After the withdrawal, the dark region of space stayed still, like a giant holding its breath. Sensors showed movement inside it, slow, careful, almost curious. The Kalari fleet held position at a distance. Human ships did the same. For the first time in generations, two enemy forces waited side by side, unsure of what to do next. Evan Hale stood on the observation deck, hands resting on the rail. He could see stars bending near the anomaly, stretching like light through water. Saraxa joined him. You were correct, she said. It responded to restraint. Sometimes that's all fear needs, Evan replied. She studied him. You speak of fear as if it is familiar. He gave a dry smile. Humans are very familiar with fear. We just learn to walk anyway. Behind them, Kalari officers worked in silence. Many of them watched Evan when they thought he was not looking. The human was no longer just a prisoner. He was a reference point. The first contact came as a whisper, not through sound but through systems. Messages formed slowly, symbols shifting until translation programs caught up. A voice emerged, broken, layered, frightened. We were driven, we were hunted, we defend, the room froze. It is intelligent, a scientist whispered. Yes, Evan said softly, and scared. The entity explained in fragments. It was a migrating intelligence, vast but wounded, attacked by empires that mistook its movements for invasion. Every strike taught it one lesson: survive by resisting harder. Kalari doctrine would have destroyed it. Human instinct wanted to help it. Saraxa faced the choice with a steady expression, but inside, her thoughts burned. If she followed old law, the entity would die, and so would countless ships when it fought back. If she listened to the human, she would rewrite what it meant to rule. What does it want? She asked. Evan closed his eyes, listening. Space, time, no weapons, murmurs spread. Impossible, an officer said. It passes through vital corridors. So do refugees, Evan replied. That word echoed in the chamber, refugees. The same word humans had used for themselves across centuries. Saraxa raised her hand. Silence returned. We will grant passage, she said. Shock exploded. Commander, we will escort it safely, she continued. No weapons, no pressure. Her eyes turned to Evan. You will advise, he nodded. I will, the escort began. Human and Kalari ships formed a wide corridor through deep space. Weapons stayed cold, shields dimmed. Every instinct screamed that this was a mistake. The entity moved slowly, its massive presence unfolding like a living nebula. Sensors spiked. A Kalari destroyer drifted too close. Alarms flared. "Pull back," Evan shouted. Too late. The entity reacted, space twisting violently. The destroyer was caught in the edge, hull tearing apart. On the bridge, panic surged. "Fire!" a Kalari captain shouted. Serax's voice cut through all channels. "Hold!" the destroyer broke in half. Escape pods scattered. The entity recoiled, pulsing with terror. Evan's heart pounded. "It thinks we betrayed it." "We lost a ship," an officer said. "This proves—" "No," Evan snapped. "This proves accidents happen." He turned to Seraxa. "If we attack now, it ends in genocide on both sides." She stared at the drifting debris. Then she made a decision no Kalari commander ever had. "All ships," she ordered, "rescue the survivors." "What?" someone shouted. Now, human ships moved instantly. Then, slowly, Kalari ships followed. Rescue pods were pulled in. Wounded were treated, human hands working beside Kalari claws. The entity slowed. Its presence softened. "You choose life," the voice whispered. Evan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The escort succeeded. The entity passed beyond the corridor and into open space, its form dissolving into distant light. Before it vanished, one final message reached them all. "You stood when afraid. We will remember." Silence followed. Then something unheard of happened. Kalari officers bowed their heads, not in submission, in respect. The aftermath was louder than the crisis. News spread across the galaxy. Footage of humans and Kalari rescuing each other. Reports of a commander who refused to fire. A human who spoke for a thing that could not defend itself. Empires took notice. So did people. Within the Kalari fleet, training changed. Protection of non-combatants became standard. Younger officers asked questions instead of memorizing doctrine. Some elders resisted. But change had already begun. Evan's departure order came quietly. He stood once more in his room, fully healed now. His uniform was repaired. His bag waited by the door. Seraxa entered alone. "You are free to leave," she said. He nodded. "Thank you," she hesitated. "You have altered my people." "You did that," Evan replied. "You chose," she looked at him. "My daughter watches you, she copies your posture, your calm." A small smile touched his face. "She's brave." "Yes," Seraxa said, "and she is Kalari. Yet she is becoming something else too." They stood in silence. Then Seraxa did something that would echo through history. She inclined her head. "Stay," she said, "not as a prisoner, as a bridge." Evan looked at the stars beyond the viewport. At human ships waiting to take him home. "Humans don't stay where they're not welcome," he said gently. "You are welcome," Seraxa replied, "and needed." He thought of Earth, of soldiers who would never believe this story. Then he thought of a child who had frozen in fear and learned to stand. "I'll stay," he said, "for a while." Relief crossed her face, brief but real. The girl ran to him later, holding the metallic token. "You are not leaving," she said. "Not yet." She smiled wide. "Good." She placed the token in his hand again. "Then this stays with you." He closed his fingers around it. Outside, fleets moved not to fight but to guard passage. Across the galaxy, a truth spread, quiet but unstoppable. Humans were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced. But when the moment came, they stood, even when afraid, even when alone, even when it cost them everything. And because of that, the galaxy would never be the same again.